Welcome to your deep dive. Today, we're going to be exploring, well, a story about family secrets and a little trickery and a blessing with some serious weight to it. We're going into the world of the Old Testament.
Okay.
Specifically, Genesis chapter 27.
Yeah, this is a story that really packs a punch, I think, when it comes to family dynamics and the consequences of our choices. Even if you haven't really spent much time with the Bible, this one resonates, I think, across cultures.
Absolutely. So it's all about Isaac, a patriarch who is getting on in years and starting to lose his sight.
Right.
He decides it's time to give his eldest son Esau his blessing. Now, this isn't just like a pat on the back, good job, son.
No, this is, you have to understand, a patriarchal blessing back then was basically destiny shaping.
Right.
It determined inheritance, leadership within the family, even had a spiritual dimension to it. It went way beyond just material wealth.
So Esau, who's a hunter,
Right.
is out in the fields, probably picturing himself, receiving this huge honor.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, his mother, Rebekah, overhears Isaac's plans and, well, she's got a different son in mind for that blessing.
This is where things get really interesting.
Yeah.
Rebekah favors Jacob, her younger son, and it seems she's not just gonna sit back and watch Esau receive the blessing.
Right.
She sets a plan in motion.
Oh, boy.
And it involves a level of deception that's pretty bold.
She goes all out.
Yeah.
She has Jacob bring her 2 goats to cook up Isaac's favorite meal. Then she dresses Jacob in Esau's clothes, even using goat skins to try and mimic Esau's hairy arms. Talk about a mother who's willing to go the extra mile.
And it's a risky move, considering Isaac, even with failing eyesight, is still a figure of immense authority in the family, but Rebekah is clearly determined.
You can practically feel the tension when Jacob brings the food to Isaac.
Yeah.
And Isaac's immediately suspicious, asking, how do you find game so quickly? He even asks Jacob to come closer and says, the voice is the voice of Jacob, but the hands are the hands of Esau.
It's fascinating to see Isaac grappling with his doubts.
Yeah.
He's clearly picking up on the fact that something isn't right. But he's also old, maybe a little weary.
Right.
In the end, he chooses to kind of push through those doubts and give the blessing.
And this blessing isn't just about, like, getting the bigger piece of land or something.
Right.
It's about dominion.
Yes.
About having power over others, even power over his brother. This is where you really start to understand the lasting impact of what Jacob and Rebekah have done.
This act sets up a power dynamic between the brothers that will have consequences that ripple through generations.
Wow.
It's not just a family squabble, it's a turning point in their lineage.
So imagine Esau returning from the hunt, exhausted but excited, ready for his moment, only to find out he's been completely tricked.
Oh.
The text describes his reaction as an exceedingly great and bitter cry.
Yeah.
It really makes you feel for him.
Absolutely. It's a gut-wrenching moment, and Isaac, realizing he's been deceived, can't take back the blessing he's given to Jacob.
Right. What's interesting is that Isaac then gives Esau a secondary blessing.
Yeah.
And it kind of paints a starkly different picture of his future.
Right.
It talks about him being tied to the land, living by the sword, and ultimately serving his brother.
It almost feels like the act of deception itself has shaped the very words of the blessing.
Wow.
Further cementing the power dynamic that's been created.
Yeah.
It really makes you wonder, are these blessings pronouncements of fate? Or do they reflect the choices and actions of those involved?
That's a question worth pondering.
Yeah.
And the drama doesn't stop there.
Oh.
We've got Esau vowing revenge.
Oh, boy.
Which means things are about to get a lot more intense between these brothers.
Oh, yes. The consequences of this deception are far from over. We'll delve into this when we return.
So we left off with Esau understandably furious.
Right.
And threatening to take matters into his own hands.
Right.
It's clear that Rebekah, always a protective mother, knows she's got to act fast. She sees the danger and urges Jacob to flee to her brother, Laban, who lives far away in Haran.
Wow.
It's a journey that will shape Jacob's life in ways he can't even imagine yet.
It's almost like an exile, isn't it?
Yeah.
Driven from his home because of this one act of deception.
Right.
But let's take a closer look at Rebekah's motivations here.
Okay.
The text mentions her concerns about the women that Esau had chosen to marry.
That's right. Esau married women from the daughters of Heth, which from Rebekah's perspective, was a serious issue.
Okay.
These women came from a different culture, a different religious background.
Right.
It seems she worried they would pull her family away from their traditions and beliefs.
So it's possible that her decision to ensure Jacob received the blessing wasn't just about favoritism.
Right.
Maybe it was also driven by a deeper fear for the future of her family and the preservation of their faith. It's a compelling theory.
Yeah.
The idea of maintaining a strong lineage and religious purity within the chosen people
Right.
is a recurring theme in the Bible.
Okay.
Marrying outside of that was often seen as a threat.
That adds a whole other layer of complexity to this story, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's not just a mother playing favorites,
Right.
but a woman grappling with bigger anxieties about her family's legacy.
Mm-hmm.
And she was willing to use some pretty extreme measures to protect it.
It highlights how even choices made with good intentions can have unintended consequences that can last for generations.
Wow.
It's a reminder that we are all part of a larger narrative, a tapestry woven from the choices of those who came before us.
Now Jacob's on the run, Esau's consumed with anger, and Isaac's left dealing with the shattered pieces of his family.
Right.
It leaves you wondering, does Jacob ever return? Does Esau ever find it in his heart to forgive him?
That's where things get even more fascinating. Jacob's journey to Haran is just the beginning of his story.
Right.
He'll face many challenges and, you guessed it, even more family drama along the way.
Oh boy.
But that's a deep dive for another time.
Oh, you're killing me with the suspense. I guess that's the beauty of these stories, right?
Yeah.
Each one is like a chapter in a much larger saga.
Exactly. And speaking of chapters, let's turn our attention to the blessings themselves.
Right.
They're clearly more than just words in this context. They carry a weight and power that shape the destinies of these brothers.
So we've talked about like the significance of these patriarchal blessings.
Right.
But I'm really curious about the specific blessings given to Jacob and Esau.
Okay.
Especially considering like how Jacob got his.
Well, what's fascinating is the contrast
Yeah.
between the blessing Isaac intended to give Esau and the one that he ultimately pronounced over Jacob.
Right.
It speaks volumes, I think, about the complexity of this whole situation.
You're referring to how Jacob, disguised as Esau, ended up receiving the blessing that was meant for his brother.
Right.
It makes you wonder, was it fate or just plain trickery?
Precisely. And the words of that blessing, particularly in light of Jacob's deception, are striking.
Right.
Remember, it included dominion over others.
Wow.
Even over his brother.
Right.
It's almost prophetic, considering how their lives unfolded.
Yeah, it's like the blessing itself, even though given under false pretenses, set the course for their future.
Yeah.
Which raises some big questions about the nature of blessings.
It really does. Does a blessing simply acknowledge a preordained destiny?
Right.
Or can it actually like shape a person's life?
Wow.
It's a question that has theological implications even beyond this particular story.
It makes you think about whether Jacob truly deserved that blessing.
Yeah.
Given how he obtained it.
Right.
It gets to the heart of merit versus grace.
A timeless debate that continues to resonate with us today. You know, these ancient stories have a way of holding up a mirror to our own beliefs and values.
It's what makes them so compelling, isn't it?
Yeah.
They challenge us to dig deeper, examine our own assumptions, and grapple with these complex issues.
Exactly. The story of Jacob and Esau is full of drama, deception, and ultimately profound lessons about family, forgiveness, and the enduring power of blessings.
It's a story that continues to speak to us across centuries.
It does.
Well said. And on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive into this captivating tale.
As you continue to reflect on the many layers of this story, we leave you with this final thought to ponder.
Okay.
How do the choices we make today, whether seemingly small or monumental, affect not only our own lives, but also the lives of generations to come?
It's certainly something to think about.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll be back soon with another fascinating exploration into a new topic.
Sounds good.
Until then, keep exploring, keep questioning,
and
keep diving deep.